Arizona is full of stunning sights, like the one behind me, Camelback Mountain. Natural formations that catch your eye and make you look up. But some of the state's scenery works the other way. Breathtaking, yes, even terrifying when you look down.
My name is Dusty Brown. I'm a helicopter pilot here in Page, Arizona with PAPILLON Airways, and we do tours here in the area over the lake, Tower Butte, Horseshoe Bend. Helicopters have been a passion of mine since I was about 12 years old. I've been around the world flying, and this is the most beautiful country that I have ever been flying in.
His office has an unprecedented view of Canyon Country's natural beauty.
Horseshoe Bend is located in the beautiful Glen Canyon, and it's a meander in the river where it almost doubles back on itself. It does a 270-degree turn around, and it leaves this beautiful horseshoe shape in the river itself. And you can see the Colorado River down at the bottom, beautiful clear Colorado River with the red bluffs of those canyon walls. It was just an amazing spectacle. If you look up a picture of the Southwest, you're going to see a picture of Horseshoe Bend in there somewhere.
This country's desert even has its own sandstone skyscraper, twice as big as the world's largest man-made tower.
It looks kind of scary. It's a little intimidating. A lot of people do think it's a lot small. It looks really small, I guess I should say, than it actually is. So by the time we get up there, you realize it's actually quite large up there. You can put 2 football fields on top. But from a ways, it looks pretty intimidating.
A feat only Mother Nature could engineer.
We took off and we flew over to the Horseshoe Bend, went over the top of that. Then we flew over to Tower Butte, landed on top, had a walk around, which is pretty cool. Tried not to get too close to the edge.
From down under to way, way up.
It's pretty exciting, sort of even hovering over close to the edge and then sort of free falling down a little bit, and it's just a really good experience, kind of something you'd see on a simulator. Just really exciting, be able to get a bird's eye view.
So a helicopter flight, it's kind of unnatural for humans. When you pick up to a hover, it's a weird feeling. And then when you start moving forward, it's just a little unnatural for people. So that's part of the excitement of it. It's a different feeling. But we do get to fly a little bit lower than airplanes because they're up at about 500 feet plus above. And then we're a little bit lower, about 300 feet or so usually. And so we get to fly a lot lower, and you get to see a lot more of the lake with a helicopter than you do an airplane. The lake is immense. There's so many things to do here. It's nice to see it from above, and we can point out things like the marinas and where they're located and what kind of things you can do there.
It looked really good. The water was clear. I felt like going for a swim, but apparently it's only 10 degrees down there, so might put that off. But it's a lot bigger than you think. You don't realize how big it is until you see someone down there, like a boat or a person.
Reese and Laura are even taking home their own postcard from the edge.
I got pretty close. I wanted to get a bit closer, but it looked a bit crumbly, so I thought I'd better not push it. But yeah, it was really good looking down.
The most memorable part of this for me will be conquering my fear of heights and landing on top of the view.
Probably landing up on the top, just walking around, checking it all out, just realising how big it is and how high up you are. It feels really good here. It's kind of like another country, well it is, but it's really good. Nice being out here in the desert.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.
This is one of my most favorite spots to come. I'll bring people to this place 9 months out of the year. I'll come here and catch fish. Some days you'll catch 100, some days you'll catch 25.
Captain Tom Pryor of Best of the West Guide Service is taking us fishing today and giving us a few secrets about catching our supper.
All water runs in a straight line, remember that. Just because you see a curve in a river, that don't mean the river runs at a curve. So as the water is coming down, it's coming to this wall, it's turning, it's going to that wall, and it's turning and going down lake. So all the bait comes up here and it swirls in this wall.
And by fishing here, it creates a natural spot for all these fish to come and get it.
Two things. Watch the river or the lake where the bins are, and then let the fish tell you what they want. Whether they want to have it fall slow, which they want it fast, the fish will tell you exactly what they want if you listen to them.
Instead, maybe we should call Captain Tom the fish whisperer.
Just like you're going to swing a baseball bat and make your cast. Perfect. Grab that net, that's a big one.
Because today, the fish are biting.
This is a 4-pound fish, at least 4 pounds. That's a 3.5, 4-pound striper. That'd lay out 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of meat when you flay him out. You'll have a fillet from here, clear to his tail, 1.5 inches thick. That's a nice fish. It's a real nice fish.
You can catch as many stripers as you want, but there are different limits each year to large and smallmouth bass, and some are bigger than others.
The fish was that big around and that long.
And that's no fishtail. The record striper here at Lake Powell is a whopping 48 pounds. You can fish here year-round, and your best is in March, April, and May. And the fall is boiling season.
You can go and fish it anywhere, the shore, on a boat, the beach, the marinas.
At the end of the day, it's about a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction.
If you just go to the store and buy a piece of meat, you do that every day. But if you go and if you go and catch a fish and then you cook it up and you eat it, you went through the whole process yourself.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Most Native American art is filled with images of animals, mythical beings, human figures, but the most powerful images are not found on pots, baskets, or in rugs. They are petroglyphs, rock art. Now, much of this rock art is protected, hard to get to, but well worth the journey to go see. Experts say Lake Powell has something like 3,000 miles of shoreline. But don't think the awe and splendor ends here at the Glen Canyon Dam that created the lake.
This is a nice, calm, smooth water float through here. Lots of beautiful things you can see.
Welcome to the other side of the dam and the rest of the Colorado River. KOREY SEYLER is a guide with Colorado River Discovery, a rafting tour company. And while this isn't the churning whitewater, KOREY says it's not always mellow either.
This canyon is constantly eroding. There's all kinds of things, rocks falling off here that are eroding this canyon away. And in fact, you know, a few times a year we've seen some pretty big rock falls down here, and they sound like a thunderous boom, like muskets going off sometimes. And I like to tell people this whole place is falling apart.
These kids are here on a school field trip. They're hitting the beach at a very special spot. A short hike up the beach is this spot where the blackened talus stone is marked with stories and mystery.
That's kind of a life and death scene. So as we're looking at it, it's facing east in this direction. It's also got an adelaide or a spear basically in its back, and it looked like it's been pecked out down there, which means that there has been a kill that has been made. The ages on here are probably from 700 years to about 2,500 years old. The ancestral Puebloans were actually in the region from about 1,000 years ago to about 3,000 years ago.
Petroglyphs, rock art, thought to be made by ancient Native Americans. Periodic floods on the river will dump or remove sand and reveal even more.
Just came into view about 17 years ago. So those are fresh and were there stored underground and incredibly detailed. You know, if you think, it would be really difficult to get down on your belly and actually carve those into the rock there. So that probably, when they carved it, was up at about chest level.
The things you will see on the upper Colorado River can change depending on the time of day, even the time of year you take this ride. Hot days have some riders eager for a swim, so KOREY has this warning about the one thing that never changes here.
The water comes out of the dam at a consistent 48 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's chilly. It'll be the quickest swim you ever take in your life, that's for sure.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Just like with the ancient pyramids, one look at the Hoover Dam and you stand in awe in the shadow of its sheer magnitude.
We're on the roof of the power plant looking up the dam. We have a 500-foot lake on the other side. That's called pressure, obviously. I think it's 45,000 pounds per square foot.
Pete Mays knows the dam inside and out, so it's only fitting that this retired dam employee now gives tours of the concrete wonder. Today he takes us to places no tourist has seen since that tragic day of 9/11.
It's poured in blocks, 5 foot tall. They were from 25 feet square up to 60 feet square, all interlocked. So it's like a jigsaw puzzle.
The concrete blocks for the dam were poured one by one, row by row. Remember, each of those blocks was only 5 feet high. So that dispels the popular myth about workers falling to their deaths into concrete.
You're now on the Arizona wing of the power plant, where we have 9 generators. Out of those 9, 8 of them are running. That makes a lot of noise. Each generator is 7 stories tall. You only look at the top 30 feet of the generator right here.
The generators inside the dam mean power for the southwestern region. And you might be surprised at which state gets the most.
We actually distribute 56% to Southern California, 25% Southern Nevada, 19% to Arizona. That's set by law, federal law.
The building of the dam was a marvel of its own, with men taking on the task of taming the Colorado River. It had to be diverted around the dam site through 4 50-foot diameter tunnels, 2 on each side of the river, drilled through canyon walls. There are tunnels everywhere.
They put over 2 miles of tunnels inside the dam for maintenance inspection and air ventilation. And in those tunnels, they've also put in gauges, like 930 gauges in the concrete to measure temperature, stress, and strain.
If you notice, the wall of the dam is arched, not straight across.
The arch puts all the pressure in the canyon walls. The keyway makes each block interlock and takes all the pressure again. The more pressure put on it, the stronger it becomes.
Back inside, there are mazes and mazes of long hallways.
This is the old tour route when they used to bring them in the old way. They knew before they built the dam they were going to walk people through the dam, so this is the Nevada side, and you go to the Arizona side out.
The dam's construction was not just about cement and power. There is surprisingly lots of art within the structure.
They just didn't want some concrete and a bunch of machinery. They wanted, and this is unusual for the government, to put in Art Deco. So they decided they were going to walk people through it in the first place. They knew that where they were building it. So they decided to put in what they call terrazzo flooring. They put in 120,000 square feet, charged them $60,000. Today it costs you about $8 million. That's just not a coating, that's 3.5 inches of marble.
Norwegian-born Oscar J.W. Hansen created the winged figures of the Republic statue that stands guard on each side of the flag along the street at the top of the dam. Hansen gave them angel wings to represent America's construction skills, daring, and readiness to defend its institutions.
Hoover Dam became, even during construction days, a great source of pride among the workers. They early on realized that what they were building was something far more important than just another construction project, which many of them had been on before. I think it also has come to symbolize a period and an attitude and a mindset that we don't have anymore. People look at that dam and say, how could anybody ever build something like that? But I've interviewed workers over the years, and they looked at it and said, we're going to build this.
Despite what the workers were going through with the Depression and the incredible feat they were about to undertake, it was never about if the project was going to get done. It was always about when. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Driving along Highway 89, you will have no trouble finding Lee's Ferry Lodge. That's because it sits smack dab in the middle of some of the most spectacular scenery in Arizona. The best part, every room there has a view. The first thing you want to do when you get to Lee's Ferry Lodge is to get out of the car and sit on the patio. Plenty of good views surround the lodge with its 1929 low sandstone buildings and comfortable turquoise-colored chairs. The stunning views are what hooked the owner of the lodge in the first place. What inspired you to actually come up here and open up a lodge?
Well, there aren't a lot of jobs around here.
Okay.
You probably noticed that already. So if you're going to be waiting on tables, you might as well make the payments and own the place.
So needless to say, you are an entrepreneur. What is it that really draws you, here? And I mean, really, what keeps you here?
I love this place. I honestly couldn't put my finger on one thing, but I love this location.
The location, of course, is in the shadow of the Vermilion Cliffs. And when you get your fill of big views, you can retire to the lodge's cozy, rustic rooms, each designed with their own outdoorsy themes.
So whatever your favorite part of this area of the country is, we have a room to go in.
So you really wanted people to have a very personalized experience when they come here. And after you're done gazing out at the mountains, the smell of fresh air and the soft beds will lull you to a deep sleep. So you can do it all over again the next day at the Lee's Ferry Lodge. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Too often, this is the only way visitors ever think of Lee's Ferry, a stop or a start point for river raft rides down the Colorado River. This place has a long history of folks just passing through. For 60 years, Lee's Ferry was the only place for settlers to get across the river and the Grand Canyon. But none of this would have happened if some people didn't stay put. The few families that stayed put lived here, in a ranch they rightly named Lonely Dell. It was not an easy place to tame.
The stories that took place here are stories that we can all relate to as far as just trials and tribulations of life.
Two rivers meet here, the PRYOR and the Colorado. That water made farming possible.
They also had squash and beans, asparagus, in the orchard, apricots.
This dugout dates from the 1870s. It was used the way we use a refrigerator to keep food from spoiling.
It's built halfway into the ground, which allows it to stay cool and would have been the food storage facility for the families who lived here after the Lees. The Johnsons would have used it, and the Emmets as well.
The river could also be a menace.
The PRYOR River, just like the Colorado River, prior to Glen Canyon Dam and the other diversions along the rivers, would have blown out with major storm, high water years, and so that occurred frequently enough at this location that they were a source of worry.
Those hard scrabble times are long gone, but the National Park Service keeps this lonely treasure alive for visitors who are willing to slow down and look a little closer.
It's a jewel. I mean, if you look around you right now, you can see the greenery with the red rock behind you, the shade that's here. You can hear the birds in the trees. You'll hear the little rustling on the ground of the lizards, and it's just a peaceful place.
Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism. Whether related by blood or by clan, the artists of the village of SHONTO have come home to celebrate their worlds of artistry.
We have our umbilical cord buried here in this community.
SHONTO BEGAY is a world-renowned author and painter. He says painting for him is a celebration of moments in his life. Today is another one of those great moments.
It keeps us a community of artists from here, a very cohesive and creative unit, and I like that.
BAJE Whitethorne Sr., Shonto's brother, and a renowned artist in his own right, brought together his and fellow artists for this village celebration of art and food.
Families are sometimes hard to bring together. Everybody's on their own, doing their own thing, and something like this sort of brings back the unique connections of family.
BAJE says it's important to gather together to teach the younger generations.
It's just the idea of beginning something with them and see where it goes. They see how you work, how you present yourself.
Elizabeth Whitethorne Banally is Shonto and BAJE's sister, and she's a Navajo folk artist. She says while her brothers taught her to paint, she has established herself in other art mediums because she is inspired by different things than they are.
This piece here is done with a lot of texturizing on canvas. Otherwise, I work on wood. I carve on wood, a lot of reclaimed wood. A lot of influence comes from the people that are around me, especially the women in the community, because I come from a long line of very strong, independent women.
Her exquisite pieces on wood clearly reflect that. But the talent doesn't stop there. Shonto's brother Tony is also a painter, and his daughter is a prodigy at just 7 years old. All of them have grown up in Shonto, which means Sunshine Springs. And that makes perfect sense, because Shonto is a beautiful part of Navajo land, and everything seems to grow there, including its array of homegrown artists. Arizona Highways Television is brought to you by Arizona Public Service and the Arizona Office of Tourism.